Hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, What's on TV and TV Times magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday, the 24th of October 2025, including Sam Claflin in the latest Harlan Coben adaptation Lazarus on Prime Video, and Ben Stiller's documentary about his showbiz parents on Apple TV+.
And we'll also be checking out quirky comedy Leonard and Hungry Pool. It is quirky, also on iPlayer, and US crime drama The Hunting Party on You. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Elle Fanning and Nicole Kidman will team up to appear in upcoming legal thriller Discretion on Paramount+. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, Ramesh and Ranganathan, a big fan of, is the host of the new celebrity challenge show. Oh my goodness, there's another celebrity show. Would You Rather Decide to Survive on Prime Video?
Yes, I just read Ramesh's memoir straight out of Crawley while I was on holiday, and it's very, very funny. Yeah, recommended. So, good selection, I think, this week. We've got a showbiz documentary. We've got, well, another Harlan Coben. They just keep on coming, don't they? And with a stellar cast. We've got a rather weird American crime drama and a rather charming Irish comedy drama. So we're going to kick off on Apple TV Plus with a feature-length documentary called Stiller and Meara, Nothing is Lost. And here's a clip.
We come from a showbiz family.
Now the comedy of Stiller and Meara.
Jerry Stiller and Anne Meara.
Anne Meara and Jerry Stiller.
We grew up around them, working together and improvising, and that's what we did, because they did it.
You're looking at not only my partner in comedy, this is the mother of my two kids.
This is the father of one.
So, of course, we're all well aware of Ben Stiller, who is one of the comedy greats from America, also has directed things, and he directs this. And it's close to home because it's all about his mum and dad, Jerry Stiller and Anne Meara, who, I mean, people will be aware of Jerry, I guess, in the UK because, I mean, he has been in films with Ben. I think he was in There's Something About Mary, which is hilarious. Oh, no, I'll tell you what he was in. He was in The Heartbreak Kid, which, seek it out, it's very, very funny. And he was also in the original version of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 with Walter Matthau, which is a classic film. But in America, they were a big deal as a showbiz couple. And so you see Ben, he starts it quite nicely, actually. So he's with his sister and they're in the family house surrounded by, you know, books and photographs. And he's talking about, well, how am I going to approach this? How are we going to do it? You see some terrific footage of, like, they used to go on chat shows, the mum and dad, and they bring the kids on as well and get them to do things like play the violin. So it's rather sweet. And also, you know, growing up in a showbiz family, of course, has its challenges, you know, and I've always had that impression from Stiller. I really like him. I think he's hilarious, and things like Meet the Parents and Zoolander. He's superb. So many things he's done. But I guess there was quite a lot of pressure on him growing up with those famous parents. And, you know, there's a lot about their relationship. They're quite an interesting couple. I think they complemented each other. She's very, very kind of easy, natural and confident, whereas you feel like the dad, he has to try harder, you feel, at what he does. Yeah, they could talk about their ups and downs. And yeah, you see, I'd completely forgotten that Jerry was in The Taking of Pelham. He's like the transit cop. So yeah, it's a fascinating documentary, and I learned a lot because I wasn't really aware of how big the parents were in the States as a double act, you know, and also the mum was a very good straight actor as well. So yeah, I thought it was really nicely done. A lovely documentary. What did you think, Hannah?
I enjoy stuff like this. I mean, I'm quite invested in celebrity, given, you know, my job title, I suppose. And I often realise or know, and it's so clear, what you see in front of the cameras is very, very different to what's behind the cameras. And we also know with comedians as well, don't we, that they're often very, very different as people than they are when they're doing their stand-up or whatever it might be. We kind of know that, that's fact. But this is really interesting because you see behind the curtain, don't you, here? You really see someone's life, as you say, being brought up by people who were stars themselves. So as child stars have got a reputation, I think, of going off the rails, and Ben Stiller hasn't done that in the same way as we've seen others do it. But I think it's really interesting to see it through his eyes and seeing those kind of lines that have been blurred, because his parents were, entertaining millions of Americans with their comedy act, and their children were at home. Okay, they probably had all the money to have all the best nannies and everything else, but that's not a normal, in inverted commas, childhood, is it? So I think you see behind that, and I don't think he's particularly complaining of that. It's a different way of being brought up. And I think it's really easy to blame and say, oh, but he's where he is. Probably he's clearly got talent, but because of them, he's got some natural talent, but also, he managed to get into the business before everybody else because of them. So I think that, it's a really... it feels very authentic, a very true account, and not just a moan fest, which I think quite often these things.
We move across to Prime Video for a new supernatural drama series called Lazarus. And here's a clip.
Dr. Lazarus.
I'm here so you can speak. What thoughts would you like to discuss?
God, I've been speaking with him.
And what have you been speaking with God about?
You. He said you were a fake. Like father, like son. And I asked him to punish you, and you know what he said?
What did he say?
Yes, do you see ghosts, Ian? That's the question. This is something else. As you say, Harlan Coben productions just keep coming, don't they? And this is pretty special, in my opinion. I absolutely love Sam Claflin. You'll remember him from The Hunger Games. Also, for Pirates of the Caribbean fans, you'll know he played Philip Swift. And reading the interviews that he's done, it seems that he really campaigned for this part. He absolutely loved the part, and he plays it really, really well. He's really haunted. So he plays the part of Joel Lazarus, known as Laz, and he plays the part of this forensic psychiatrist who is really notorious for being so brilliant. He's well acclaimed, and he's haunted by his own family history. So already there's a history here. There's a story behind here. His sister that took her own life, and he kind of moved away from all of that, but has never ever dealt with that at all. He kind of ran away from everything, and that has been the family history that has literally haunted him. But then in recent times, his father, played by Bill Nighy, he takes his own life, and this is when he absolutely hero worshipped him, absolutely adored him, and he doesn't believe this. He says, no, this isn't. I don't think they did take their own lives. They're being murdered, and he starts to see ghosts. And of course, anybody listening is like, oh, are you on medication? What's the problem here? What's going on? This is not real. So he's kind of almost everything he's saying is unfortunately adding fuel to the fire that he's not really with it and not being taken seriously, essentially. But he's in absolute turmoil. He wants to find how these two really big parts of his life, his sister and his father, are deceased, and he doesn't believe that they did take their own lives. It's really cleverly done. It's quite edge of your seat stuff. You don't know what's coming. I think it's there are times I think where you think, oh, I know what's going to happen, and you don't. There are good twists and turns here. I don't know if you particularly like the paranormal stuff, Ian, but I quite like this. I'm not as keen as on sci-fi stuff, but this paranormal idea is really interesting. And there's some really creepy people in here. He is dealing, as I say, he's a forensic psychiatrist, so he's inside prisons talking to people. He's interviewing this one guy who says he speaks to God, and I went to the Thorpe Park Fright Night the other night into one of the mazes, and it just reminds me of that, those starey eyes that just stare into your soul, and that's what goes on here. It's really really well played by everybody, because it's quite a full-on part for Sam Claflin, actually. He's the centre of all of this. And you can see his whole face is haunted. The acting is superb. I think it's really, really good. What did you think, Ian?
Well, Coben certainly churns them out, doesn't he? The adaptations of his works. And this was co-written specially for TV with Danny Brocklehurst, who wrote £10 Poms. I'm not a huge fan of Coben's stuff. I sort of always get the impression that he thinks of the big, totally unexpected plot twists first, and then he writes around that, and often I don't find them very convincing. And that can work if you think of you sort of referenced The Sixth Sense, didn't you, at the start? And that was all about the plot twist, and that really worked. So I sort of think going into the supernatural realm is quite a smart move for him, because you're expecting to suspend your disbelief in this realm. I agree with you. I think Claflin is superb in this. He just gives it some gravitas. He doesn't overdo it. We've also got the lovely Alexandra Roach, who's playing his surviving sibling, Jenna. And yeah, Bill Nighy, he's just the coolest actor of his generation, isn't he? It'd be nice to see more of him in this. What I would say... His office, which this is where it all kind of starts to go weird, because Laz goes to his dad's office and he has a drink of whiskey like his dad used to do, and he starts looking through case files, and that's when the weird stuff starts happening. His office looks like a sort of, I don't know, a bank crossed with a stately home. What psychiatrist has an office like that?
Those were the days, Ian. Those were the days, Ian, when we had offices and PAs and everything else. Those days are gone, my friend.
But it's just, the thing about Coben's work is you just can't stop watching it, because at the end of every episode there's something that you think I have got to carry on with this, and this is no different. But I think I enjoyed it more than there seemed to be Richard Armitage, which was always previously in virtually every Harlan Coben. But yes, I liked this. It grips me, and with Claflin and Nighy in it, and Roach, you can't go wrong. Over on You and Alibi and the streaming platform we have a new thriller called The Hunting Party, and here's a clip.
Richard Harris was executed in 2017.
What is your professional assessment of him?
You want me to profile a dead serial killer.
Why?
The truth is, he's not actually dead. He and some of the most dangerous criminals the world has ever known. They escaped from a classified prison.
How many?
A lot.
This is a 10-parter, and get ready to suspend your disbelief, because you're going to need to. So the jumping off point is there's this underground prison, looks like a kind of great big silo with it's secret as well. No one knows about it. Well, obviously certain people do, but it's not widely known about. And all these notorious criminals are, who supposedly have been executed. They're being kept there captive. Not only that, weird experiments are being done on them. So yeah, already you're thinking, if you're going to do this, you've got to set it in the future. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it. Anyway, that's the setup. And then there's an explosion. Well, of course, we did The Last Frontier recently, with a plane full of very nasty criminals landed, and they all went on the loose. And yeah, there's an explosion in the prison. Lots of criminals are at large. And the star of this is Melissa Roxburgh, who plays one of those brilliant FBI profilers who can just read people. She's called Bex Henderson. And she's left the Bureau for reasons that presumably will become apparent as we as it unfolds. She's working in a casino, sort of sussing out who's cheating, Anyway, of course, she gets called back to the bureau because one of the fugitives is Richard Harris. No, not the actor, Hannah. I know what you're thinking. He's a serial killer who she thought had been executed. She worked on the case, but now she finds out, he's still alive. He was in this prison, and now he's free, and they presume that he's just going to, the same behaviour is going to occur again. So I thought, despite the whole weird stuff with the prison, I did get drawn in. I quite like Bex as a character, and she clashes with this CIA agent, Jacob, played by Patrick Sabongui, who's not letting on the whole truth of what's been going down. Then there's also a very handsome prison guard, Shane, played by Josh McKenzie. He comes along for the ride. And then we're also getting flashbacks from her work with her former partner, which ended quite badly. You'll see it in flashback, and he's very handsome as well. And yes, we may not have seen the last of him. That's all I'll say. So yeah, the Richard Harris case is all wrapped up in episode 1. I'm like, well, that was easy. There's a good twist in it, but I thought, oh, okay. I thought they were going to spin that out. So it's basically going to be each week they're going to hunt for a different criminal. So, it's a pretty silly setup, but, I found it perfectly watchable. I like the female lead. It's one of those kind of Clarice Starling, just really intuitive types, slightly bucking against the system. So, bit of escapist nonsense. Perfectly okay, but I don't think I'll watch any more. What does you think, Hannah?
Do you know what? I think you've summed it up really well. The only thing I did think draw comparisons with was last week we were talking about the plane crash, weren't we? And the fugitives kind of escaping. And this has a real sense of that too. I have to say it kind of plays on all my fears, like I again said last week, the idea that there are lots of very sick people on the streets and they're trying to catch them. And you talked about Richard Harris here. And of course, his crimes are heinous and absolutely awful. He sadistically tortured several women, and he's, of course, around there to strike again, and they've got to try and catch all of these different people, and they're absolutely everywhere. And kind of the idea of this kind of the hunting party tells you absolutely everything, doesn't it? That they are literally hunting these horrid people. So I did think I did enjoy what I've seen of it so far. It does seem like they kind of went full whack in the first episode, which kind of seemed a bit strange. I thought they'd have strung that out a bit longer, as you said. But I think that the whole premise of this just plays on people's fears, and so therefore will work quite nicely. And it does, you just think, what if that, and I suppose as well, what if that happened? Everyone's got a prison somewhere near them, right? And the idea that this could happen. And of course, this is an explosion. This is something that, is out of someone's control, and they just sort of seem to manage to run away. And also, it comes down to data, doesn't it? They thought that he was dead and he was not dead. Things like that. Are they actually still searching for him? It plays on what could be, I suppose. And that's, I guess, why I found it so appealing.
Well, we're going to finish over on BBC iPlayer with a new comedy drama series called Leonard and Hungry Paul. And here's a clip.
Leonard's story began 32 years ago. He was raised alone by his mother, his father having died tragically in childbirth. He was a boy with a big imagination and not many friends to share it with. However, Leonard looked away from the loneliness and into the vast, inventive universe of his mind.
Now, this is a bit of a slow burn, or it was for me anyway, because it starts. So first of all, the narrator is Julia Roberts, and I didn't realise for a little while into it that it was Julia Roberts. There is some real Hollywood star power here, so just to say that straight away. So it starts with us being introduced to this lad, Leonard, as a baby. It's got some kind of weird sort of humour throughout it. It's not, for me, it's not laugh out loud. They say his father dies through childbirth, and he's left with his mother, and they become this sort of pair, like a mother and son, almost like they're married. They just kind of coexist in a relationship that isn't exactly normal for a mother and son in terms of him. They call it that he doesn't have the eureka face, and he's obviously, there's sort of some neurodiverse issues here. The mother kind of is his biggest fan, biggest campaigner at school when he struggles at school, and school are calling her in and talking to him about him, and they cohabit in really quite a happy, nice way, but it's like he never grows up. She babies him, so that's kind of where it starts. But when she passes away, I suppose that's when you see him having to spread his wings a little bit and becoming the person that he truly is. And I don't think, as I say, that he is probably your average lad, but he is somebody who has got a lot to give. He's clearly a really bright boy. And this other chap called Hungry Paul, he's a part-time postal worker. He's also a little bit strange, a little bit awkward at times, and they live this it's a really unassuming existence, and you see snapshots. This is why it's a bit of a slow burn, because you kind of see snapshots into each of their lives and their worlds and their jobs and how awkward they are in those positions. So Hungry Paul, for example, is in the hospital, goes to see somebody and doesn't know what to say. He makes her think that she's dying, and it causes a big scene. There's no kind of social etiquette around this at all. And Leonard, he's called Lenny, is probably more of a likable character, I suppose. There are moments where you see his eureka face, which they say he doesn't have. He kind of smiles a bit here and there, and he finds things a bit funny. And he's working in the office, and the fire alarm goes off, and he meets somebody, and instantly there's a massive attraction. And there's talk kind of that predecesses this, where we don't really know whether he's got it just because he has never met anyone, because he's always been with his mum. Does he take his mum to a +1 wedding, for example, or does he try and find a partner? But now he's kind of on his own. He as I say, he can spread his wings, and he feels this kind of real connection with her, and you begin to see this character come alive. You begin to see this person fulfilling their potential, I suppose, because although he's an introvert, there's something very deep within him, and you can absolutely see that, and he's got so much to give and so much to bring to the party. So, as I say, for me, it took me quite a while to get my head around exactly what was going on in this, if I'm honest with you. I think probably it's one of those things I need to rewatch and will actually really like, and we'll still be talking about this in several months' time. It was actually genius. That was absolutely brilliant. But I have to say, I just kept watching, where are we going with this? What's going on? What? That's not that funny. Why have we done that? And this is a bit awkward, and this is a bit uncomfortable to watch at times, actually. So it was, as I say, it's a slow burn. I think you'll enjoy it. I don't know what you think, Ian. For me, it's worth watching again. I need to watch it again.
I agree, because I started watching episode 1, and my immediate thought was, this isn't going to be for me. But I did get into it, and it's adapted from a novel, and so it needs that narration, I think, because obviously the novel has this particular sort of quite wry tone, and but I do think having an American Hollywood star, Julia Roberts, narrating a show that's set in Dublin, it doesn't quite work. I don't know. I know apparently she was a big fan of the book, so she was really keen to do it. And obviously it's a selling point, and we'll sell it, I guess, around the world. But anyway, Alex Lawther from Alien Earth plays Leonard, who writes children's encyclopedias. Yeah, interesting job. And Laurie Kinniston from Fool Me Once is Hungry Paul. I don't know if we ever find out why he's called Hungry Paul. He's a part-time postal worker. So it's kind of in the same ballpark as Film Club, which be the Amy Lou Wood series that we did recently. And it's a sort of quirky comedy drama about people who don't quite fit in but have this rather touching relationship. And then because you've got Jamie Lee O'Donnell, who was brilliant in Derry Girls as the most extrovert of the girls, playing Shelley, she really injects some energy into it, and she's absolutely terrific. So it's just like Film Club. It's something different, and it's about people the sort of people who don't necessarily get written about as the main characters in TV shows. So yeah, I did enjoy it actually. Yeah, I thought it was charming. Now we've got to that time, young Hannah, my lad, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching.
It's just the Traitors. I don't know what I'm going to say from now on. It's just the Traitors.
Don't tell me what happens. Don't tell me what
I
happens.
won't tell you what's happened. You've been away.
Okay.
I won't tell you what's happened. It's just brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. And of course, we have the news that Tess and Claudia are quitting Strictly.
Yeah. What the hell?
They always said they'd go together, didn't they?
Well, opportunity knocks. They'll be looking for a couple of presenters, I believe. A couple of super fans. Well, as you say, I've been away in Greece, and the only English language TV I could watch for the whole week was Beverly Hills 90210 and Grey's Anatomy. And I saw the episode of Grey's Anatomy where there's a shooter loose in the hospital, and you have to ask yourself, what the hell were the SWAT team doing? Because he seems to be wandering around for ages and ages after they found him. Anyway. Remember that? It was a great series, wasn't it? Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what is on the Binge Watch menu, Hannah?
Well, Emma Thompson stars as a PI investigating a missing person case in Apple TV drama Down Cemetery Road.
And Colin Farrell plays a con man in high-stakes Netflix thriller Ballad of a Small Player. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners,
Listening!
Oh, nice. I like what you did there.